Hello and welcome to Explore with Kids. So in this video I'm going to be showing you how we built this canopy and what components we've decided to put into the canopy. We're also going to show you what it weighs, the cost of all parts and the materials to build this canopy from scratch. One of the main reasons for setting up this canopy is we've sold our camper trailer and the wait times for a caravan keep blowing out and out due to COVID and supply chain issues. Plus we've always had the desire to cross the Simpson Desert and just didn't really feel comfortable towing a camper trailer across it. So now we've got no camper trailer and we thought, why not do this now? It's not like we're going to tow a caravan across the Simpson, is it? So the best way we thought to carry all the gear was to use a canopy. So we decided at looking at, getting one. Now, there are a lot of canopies on the market, and the ones we looked at were TC boxes, MW toolboxes, and Aussie toolboxes. And the size we went for was a 1200 by 1800. In this particular case, it was 1780. Now, the reason I went for this size was the canopy was that it could still be used on the back of the tray. It fit perfectly between the sides of the tray. Originally, we wanted a smaller box just to protect the fridge and have a place for kitchen utensils, etc., storing sleeping bags and all that type of gear. And when we looked at it, the smaller size just wasn't big enough to fit everything in. Now, we then decided that we went with Aussie toolboxes. Now, one was because of the price compared to the features and build quality, and it looked really good. It had the compression whale tail locks, but what I liked most was the reinforcement of the canopy itself. It used 4mm tubing to brace the canopy and it looked really well built. And I felt because of this bracing, we could use the top of the canopy to store large items, without fear of the canopy collapsing. And the welds, they looked also really good compared to others that I've seen. So please note, we're not sponsored by this company and paid for everything out of our own pocket. Everything shown in this video and what we used was purchased at full price. We want to keep this channel honest and without bias. We'll continue to pay for goods we test and review out of our own pocket. In return, we'd love it if you could subscribe to this channel so we continue to do more of these videos. Now, there was one minor issue I found with the canopy. When we picked up the canopy, it was actually raining. So when we drove it back home and opened up the canopy, I actually found a small amount of water, pooled in the bottom of the canopy. And I thought, oh great, I bought a leaky canopy. Now, that's what you get for when you purchase these Chinese-made canopies, I guess. So I went about trying to find this leak and eventually found it by chucking one of the kids into the canopy and then shining a torch all around the canopy until we saw some light inside. Now, it turns out the leak was coming in through one of the jack-up holes. Lucky enough, it was an easy fix. Basically just simply siliconed around the joints and then the water kind of just disappeared because we filled up all those cracks. The other thing we found with picking up the canopy is if you intend on keeping the sides of your tray, it's going to be a real tight fit to the point that the sides are actually bowing a little bit. It's actually really tight and uncomfortably tight, and there was a lot of tension on the tray latches. It could have worked, but in the end found it was going to be a pain, having to pull the sides down every time we wanted to open the canopy. So we basically removed the sides, as you can probably see in the background. Next was the design. This wasn't as easy as I thought. A lot of thought went about how items were going to be stored, went into the design. Having camped before, we knew what we wanted. We knew how we wanted the setup. We wanted it to be quick and easy to use. We didn't want items to be stacked on top of one another and you're pulling things in and out just trying to get to, I guess, some salt and pepper, for example. Now, fortunately enough, I've used CAD programs in the past, so basically designed everything on the computer. I got the footprints of each item and moved them around on the computer. Even all the rails, the bracing, everything was just, put into the computer, and we got to actually move and things and design the canopy that way. Even to the point, bought some clear canvas, or we looked for clear canvas tops to store the items and basically design the drawers and everything around that. This was to ensure no dust found its way into the packed items, especially the kitchen pantry. I guess I just wasn't sure how dust-proof the canopy was going to be. Being a Chinese-made thing, you've heard of all these different horror stories of dust in ingress and all that. So just wanted to make sure everything was protected, so erred on the side of caution. The other reason for using CAD was I really wanted to design the canopy, I guess, with minimum waste of materials. So I could get, and put in all the dimensions of the timbers and so forth, and then work out how much each thing was going to measure, and basically design the whole canopy on the base just to make sure there was no waste. Now, the first thing in the design was the floor of the canopy. Now, as you notice, a lot of the canopies you purchase, they're not level to the door. So we needed to raise that canopy floor somehow. Look, I've seen a lot of people building the height with timber frames and etc., but I really wanted to keep this as light as possible. Eventually I found some aluminium tubing. In the end we used 30mm by 30mm by 1.5mm tubing, and then also in certain sections we use a 50mm by 30mm where things would overlap. Now all of this is just available from Bunnings. The tubing was then glued down using Sikaflex 11FC, I think it was. I was a little skeptical as to how well this would hold, but I thought I'd give it a go anyway. To make sure it held down, I used bricks and batteries and whatever else I could find to make sure that tubing wouldn't move and give a really tight bond. And I figured, if this Sikaflex, when it cured, and if I could still rip it off, then I'd look at using, I guess, secondary anchors. However, once the Sikaflex had cured, I tried ripping that tubing off. And boy, was it stuck down. The whole car was shaking. That stuff is so strong. I don't think I could get it off even if I wanted to. Next was the floor, and I chose structural plywood, which was 15mm thick in this case, as this would raise the floor enough just to get it above the opening of the door. The floor was cut into a few sections just to make it easier to manage and install. And then I used countersunk screws, basically just to fasten the floor to the tubing. Now I wanted everything to be ripped off and to pull down, and just wanted things to be manageable, and that's why everything was screwed down in this case. Now, when the design of the floor, I left a space in the floor. Now, I did this basically to ensure there was enough depth for a battery. At the time, I wasn't sure whether I was going to put in a 100 amp hour or a 200 amp hour or two 100s. I just wasn't sure. So I just wanted enough depth in there. At the time, we're also tossing up between using our trusty angle or going to a Bushman style upright fridge. I actually managed to find and purchase the King's equivalent of the Bushman's fridge, which appears to come out of the same factory as the Bushman's one. But I believe now Kings now have another version of this upright fridge, which is different to the Bushman's, but that's a different story. Now for the drawer carcasses. That was actually made using 15mm ply as well, and was fastened to the floor using angle brackets. Like I said before, I wanted the design to be modular and easily removed wherever I decided to change the layout for some reason. Don't ask me why I went down this path, but that's what I did. Once again, the carcass was made into two halves and assembled together inside the canopy. Next up was installing the drawer slides and the top. These were simply screwed into the carcass itself, and the top shelf was also made using 15mm ply. Now, the drawers were made using 9mm ply. Now, I chose this thinner ply as I wanted the canopy to be lighter and allow more storage inside. All the drawers and that were also screwed together. Next was the design of the electrical board, which is something I've never done before, so I looked for inspiration online. Everything was laid out to get a good look and feel, just to make sure everything would fit. All the components, the grommets, circuit breakers, everything was laid out on that board. In the end, I chose up using a 3mm aluminium composite material, which I had lying around. This was going to be attached to the headboard and basically where everything was going to be screwed to. And I did this using nut certs once again, so I could remove the panel on and off. Once again, this material was chosen based on its weight. It was easy to work with, and I thought, if it didn't hold up, I could always change it later anyway. I actually enjoyed wiring up the board as I could start to see, this vision that was in my head actually start to come to life. And the electrical board comprises of the 2000 watt EnerDrive inverter, which you've seen me testing and using, and an EnerDrive 40 amp hour DC-DC charger. Initially I used a Bluetooth Victron shunt, which you've also seen in my videos, but found when the canopy was closed, I just couldn't connect to it via the app. And it was really annoying not to be able to monitor the batteries and see what was going in through solar when we're in the car. The Bluetooth just wasn't strong enough, I guess. In the end, I eventually swapped this one out with one that I had previously in the car that also had a display unit. But that particular model didn't have a Bluetooth module, so I purchased the additional Victron module, and this worked a treat. The Bluetooth shunt is great, but does have its limitations. What I'll probably end up doing a video on this showing the benefits and negatives of that shunt, but it mainly got to do with the distance and how far away you could actually monitor whatever's going on. Also on the electrical board were double power pole power points and USB sockets. The Anderson plugs also allowed for connection of other equipment and additional solar input for a solar blanket in case the one I placed on top wasn't enough. Also installed an electrical outlet on the outside so we could run an extension cord from our tents at night to charge the devices straight from the canopy. After everything was basically built, disassembled everything, pulling everything back out for painting. I was originally going to leave it the natural wood color, but I just couldn't help myself. So basically started sanding back everything and placing all the timber and placed the painted coat on it, and found the texture or finish just wasn't as smooth as I would like. You could see all the flaws in the timber we're showing, which some of you may like, but I just was going for a different look. To fix this, in the end, I used a thin coat of wall filler and then sanded that back and then repainted it. Next up, we glued the carpet using, synthetic grass glue and automotive carpet. Now, wasn't sure what the best carpet glue was to use, but saw in a few forums that that's what they recommended, and it was highly recommended by a lot of people to use the synthetic grass type of glue. And then to cap it off, just basically when the carpet was on, it just didn't look kind of finished. So I ended up getting some black powder coated angle bracket, once again from Bunnings, just to cap everything off, and had some left over, so I decided to cap the bottom of the drawers as well. So what I'll do now is I'll show you some of the finished product, and here are a few shots of what it ended up looking like. Now for the weights and the cost of the canopy. Whilst building the canopy, I tried to weigh everything before putting it in there. There were a couple of items missed in my haste just to try and build this thing and get it finished, but overall the weights are pretty accurate. And the total weight came to 265 kilos. Now, this also includes the rubber matting on the bottom of the canopy, which weighs 17 kilos on its own. Now for the cost. The total cost for the canopy, including all the electronics, materials, fridge, DC, EnerDrive, everything that's in the canopy, came just shy of $8,000. So if you're looking to build a canopy for yourself, I hope this has helped you and given you a few ideas as to what to do, how to put everything together. Anyway, that's it for this video, and if it's been helpful, would love you to give us a thumbs up, as we're always checking out new sites and playing around with gear and equipment. If you have any other questions or comments, hit us up in that comment sections below, and I'll do my best to answer any questions. Until next time.